Printing from Revit is actually very similar to printing in other Windows programs. The most common way to print is to just generate paper output from a traditional printer or plotter. You can also do digital output to PDF files. That would happen in the print dialog as well. Now, I should mention that PDF is not built into Revit. So if you want to generate PDFs, you actually have to have a PDF plotter. You could have Acrobat or Bluebeam, but you have to have that installed in your system first. So I'm in a file here called plotting, and I'm looking at the A101 floor plan sheet. And, if I just kind of zoom in a little bit, we've got our nice title block here, and you can see that it's just a typical floor plan like so. Maybe I'm ready to print out a progress set and send it off to a recipient. So I'm going to go to the big R here, the application menu, highlight the print button, and there's actually 3 options here. Now, print preview, I think, is pretty self-explanatory. That would just do an on-screen preview before you click OK and print. And that's usually a pretty good idea if you're not sure that everything is configured correctly, because it'll help you save a little bit of paper. Print setup has a variety of settings. We're going to look at those, and we could go directly to that dialog if we wanted to. But it turns out there's a print setup button in the print dialog as well. So it'll be a little easier to just go directly to print and get to the setup, and we can do everything in one screen. At the top of this print dialog is the plotter. This is the device you're going to print to. Now, in my case, I'm printing to Adobe PDF. And as I said, you have to have something like that installed. Your device will vary, so just choose off the list whatever plot device you want to use for this exercise, and it has to be one of the printers installed in your system. If you're doing a digital plot like a PDF, then the file area will be available. And you can configure your path and file name there, but it's going to prompt you for the file name anyway, so usually I just ignore that. If you're printing to a hard copy device like a laser printer or a plotter, this will all be grayed out. In the print range area, you have 3 options. You have current window, the visible portion of the current window, or the selected views and sheets. Now, if I move this out of the way, current window would do the entire sheet. Visible portion, because I've zoomed in the background, would only do the part that I can actually see on screen right now. So sometimes you want to just do a little check plot of a little small area. You zoom it first, and then you use the visible portion. And, you can send that to your laser printer, and it would be just that little area. Those methods are fine for a quick plot, but usually you're going to probably do this one right here, selected views and sheets. And when I click this select button, it'll give me the complete list of views and sheets that are in my project. I'm going to do the drop down here. Notice that it only says in session. So over here, we've got some save and save as buttons. You can actually save groups. So let's say that I, had this like this, and I wanted to save that as, and this is set 1. When I click OK, that's going to appear there. I'm going to check none, and what I actually want to do is uncheck views, check all the sheets here, and I'm going to save that as, and I'm going to call this permit set, and click OK. So now if I check none and I display everything, here's the way that works. If I do set 1, it checks those boxes. If I do permit set, it checks those boxes. So it's a really quick way to restore some selection of sheets that I want to print more than once. If you need to, you can reverse the print order, collate. That depends on your plotter. This is where we can get to the page setup dialog again. So I'm going to click that. As I said, we could either get it right off the application menu or we can get it here. You've got a lot of the standard choices you would expect. I'm plotting on an E1, so I probably want to choose that size there. Landscape or portrait. Most of your sheets are probably organized landscape. You can center the plot on the sheet, or you can offset it from the corner. And there's a few different options, no margin, plotter limit. You'll have to do some experiments on your printer to see which is the best choice to make sure you're not cropping anything off on the edges. If you do fit to page, it's not to scale. Usually it's better to go zoom and set it to 100%. If you're printing an E-size sheet on a laser printer, then you could do fit to page because it would reduce it down to the extent of an 8.5 by 11. Otherwise, if you're doing the full-size sheet here, you want to do zoom 100%. You can choose your quality options, whether or not you want to print in color or force everything to black lines. Vector or raster processing, do some experiments to see what you get. It really doesn't matter too much with 2D drawings, but in 3D drawings, this can make a difference. And finally, I want to talk about some of these settings down here because these are some useful settings. There are 4 options here that start with hide. If your object is not one of those 4 elements, it prints. Sometimes I get the question in Revit, can we make this non-plot or can we make that non-plot? The answer is usually no, unless it's one of these 4 things. So reference planes can be hidden with this checkbox. Scope boxes and crop boundaries can be hidden with those checkboxes. We didn't talk about scope boxes, but we did talk about crop boundaries. So if you recall the movie where we did a detail call out, we had a little crop box around the detail. If we hadn't hidden that crop box, we could check this box here and it still wouldn't print. Now this is one of my favorites right here. Hide unreferenced view tags. Look here in the background where I've zoomed in. This is a referenced view tag because it says 2 on A301. This is an unreferenced view tag because it's not on a sheet yet. If I check this box, it'll display this section head and print it. It'll hide this one. And I think that's really handy because you don't want to print the set with this section mark on here and then your contractor calls you saying, where is this section? I don't see it anywhere in the set. So it just avoids that confusion. And then finally, if your plotter is having a hard time printing halftone, you can tell it to use thin lines instead. Any of these settings you can save and give it a name so that if you use the same collection of settings again next time, you can choose it off the list. And a lot of firms will actually add items to this list like full-size plot, half-size plot, and so on. And they'll create one for each of the different devices in the office. So sometimes you'll see a really long list there. Let's click OK. And then if I wanted to go ahead with the print, I would just click OK. In my case, that would prompt me for a bunch of PDF names. I'm actually going to just close the dialog. Likewise for you, if you're printing along with me, if you actually want to print it out and hold the paper in your hand, go ahead and click OK. Otherwise, you can just click Close here to finish without actually printing. The nice thing about the Close box is it remembers all the settings. So if I configured everything, but then I change my mind and I'm going to print later, I don't have to start over again. It'll remember all the settings that I've done. So as you can see, printing from Revit is very similar to printing in other Windows applications. You go to the page setup dialog and configure any settings specific to your print device or the particular plot you're trying to make. And then when you're ready, you just click OK and wait for the prints to come out.